It's hard to imagine life today without recorded sound, but to our grandparents it was new and miraculous. Just 130 years ago, a Frenchman invented a device that could make a visual record of sound with a hog whistle, but it couldn't play the sound back. Close, but no cigar. Only 20 years later, Thomas Edison, a man who did enjoy a good cigar, amazed the world with a machine that could talk. The story now from the director of the museum here, Roger Kennedy.
In 1877, the telephone had just been patented by Alexander Graham Bell. But the trouble was, only the very rich could afford it. So Western Union hired another inventor, Thomas Alva Edison, to design a better telephone system to compete with Bell's. Edison had already been working on a means to record telegraph messages by punching them into a paper disc. He did improve the telephone, but in the course of that work, he devised something much more. It was an astonishingly simple device that could both record and play back sound without using electricity. He called it the phonograph. You spoke, or rather you yelled, into a diaphragm, which drove a needle to make indentations in tinfoil, rotating on a cylinder. Here's how it worked. Mary had a little lamb. It pleased
by the snow, and everywhere that Mary went, the lamb was sure to go.
Those are the first words ever recorded and played back, as they were repeated by Edison in 1927 on the 50th anniversary of his invention of the phonograph. Edison called it his favorite invention and said it came into being by mistake. Edison was trying to improve a machine to record telegraph messages.
Edison became interested in the notion of recording a telegraph message. Now, that had been done for many years prior, but the trick here was to record the telegraph message by embossing a piece of paper with this little pin here as this rotated.
Edison's short presses were recorded as dots, long presses as dashes. Then one day, the machine malfunctioned. The playback ran out of control. The needle dragged across the paper and made a noise that sounded to Edison like a human voice. He responded by using the thin vibrating diaphragm or membrane of a telephone to activate a needle which could leave an impression in such a soft material as tinfoil. Edison's primary intention for the phonograph was that it be a device to record voices. So he set out to record famous people for posterity.
The Railroad Question by William Jennings Bryan, Edison Records.
But the novelty of the phonograph soon wore off. The recordings were crude and lasted no more than a minute. Too indistinct, too short. Edison turned his attention to the incandescent light bulb, but other inventors continued to improve the phonograph. Wax replaced tinfoil, extending the length of recordings, making them suitable for music longer than a rag. By the turn of the century, the productions of the phonograph were clearer and longer. Edison went back in the phonograph business. His recording label offered popular tunes. Edison often chose the artists himself. Edna White was one of his favorites. She's 98 now, but still remembers recording for Edison in the days before microphones and electronic amplification.
The technique then was that we had to make 3 records. They didn't duplicate it like they can today. And when we played things, we played them by a horn, a great big horn that came out. And it was a very picturesque thing, but not as practical as today.
Edison said his goal was to make the phonograph the greatest musical instrument in the world.
I only have my Edison records that I'd like people to remember. My Edison records, I really would like people to remember me for those.
Edison's phonograph company failed in 1929, shortly after the stock market crash. But more than anyone else, he gave the world recorded sound. He loved the phonograph, and he lived long enough for recorded music to become commonplace.